I'm live. Hello. I'm a couple of minutes late because literally just as I was about to start best laid plans, I heard terrible sobbing from the 5-year-old outside the door. So I've not had time to even put any makeup on or anything. So it's pure unfiltered Vicki in your on your screens today. So yeah, this is my second go at doing a live. So hopefully I'll feel a bit more comfortable this time. And I'm doing this partly like to sort of push myself out of my someone's here, hi Henry. Yeah, I'm going live partly because I think it's good practice for me to try and push myself out of my comfort zone a bit, but also there's more of a kind of practical logistical reason for this, which is it's August, literally is what's just happened. The kids are off school, running around causing chaos. My other half is the one with the proper job in this family. I shouldn't say that, but he is, he's employed. So it does. I'm the freelancer. It falls to me generally to. Oh dear, I can hear sobbing. Hopefully she's not going to come in. Best laid plans. Oh goodness me. Hold on a second. Are you okay, Bubby? I'm just on the internet. Are you all right? No. Okay. Good girl. Oh dear. Well, that was a good start. She's sobbing quietly next door. Oh dear. Anyway, yeah. So this is a case in point, really. It's not very easy for me really to do a whole lot of work in the school holidays. And also this August we've got a lot going on. We've got so I've got a 5-year-old who's the one who's crying outside, and an 11-year-old, and currently they are sharing a bedroom, which is not ideal. And the older one is about to start secondary school. So we've sort of known for ages that we're going to need to sort that out. So this August, we are splitting our bedroom in half, having a wall put in. So the builders are coming in. It's going to be chaos. We're going away. We're going to the Isle of Wight for a week for some of the time that the builders are here. But I don't know. It's not a big job, really. I know people have like full-on renos, but it does still feel quite daunting. And there's a lot to do, a lot of sorting and getting things out of drawers and cupboards and hopefully throwing lots of kids' toys away. So I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do a whole bunch of work this August. So partly I thought I could just hop on and talk to you about the stuff I've been reading and watching rather than writing it. And also just to kind of heads up of what is going to be happening on my Substack in August. So I'm aware that I've been in your inboxes like a lot over the last few weeks. Oh, here she is. I'm just on the computer, my darling. You can come and sit down. You just sit there really quietly. Sorry. So yeah, I've been sending lots of messages out, obviously, because I've been launching this. Oh, darling, just go and sit down, darling. Good girl. You sit down over there. Have a cuddle with your cuddly. Good girl. Oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, I've been emailing a lot with the launch of the film thread. We got another hi. It's very exciting when people come on. We're being slightly interrupted by my 5-year-old, so I'm going to crack on. Hello, and we'll see how we go. So I was just saying that I don't know how much time I'm going to get to work, and this she's beautifully playing her part of being an interrupting, a gorgeous interrupting child. But anyway, coming up in August, I partly to ease off from all the emails I've been sending out about the film thread, and on that I should say I'm so excited at people who have signed up, and it's our first Zoom meeting when we're going to be talking about the day the Earth caught fire is on Sunday. So it's not too late to sign up. You can watch the film over the weekend, and we'd love to see you. But I'm going to try and just sort of take step off the gas a little bit with all the emails. But I did want to, I'm sure everyone is aware, 2025 this year is the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War, and as well the anniversary of the atomic bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So I really wanted to do something to mark that anniversary. So I've got a couple of special interviews in my The Atom and Us series lined up for Hiroshima Day and Nagasaki Day next week. And also, it's going to be a bit of a sort of like noughties theme to some stuff I'm talking about today, not particularly deliberately, but in keeping with that, I when I was preparing for the my Hiroshima piece, I went back and I dug out. I actually went to Hiroshima in 2004, and I dug out my old my photo album from when I visited, and also some of the books that I bought when I was there at the Peace Museum. And one of those books I'd actually forgotten that I had it, is a book of survivors' testimonies. And so I thought that I would just do a little audio post as well and read some extracts from that as well. So there's going to be a little flurry of 3 things coming out for Hiroshima Day, and then I'm not gonna do my normal monthly Meander, which is supposed to be about what I've been doing for work-wise, because I probably won't been doing much work-wise, and my roundup Meander. This will be it, and then I'll come back in September. So yeah, that's what's coming. And then so looking back over, so I did the last one of these was at the end of June. So now we're kind of beginning of August, aren't we? It's 1st of August today. So looking back, what have I been, listening, reading, watching over the last few weeks? And the main answer to that is the Tour de France. So I am an enormous road racing fan. As a sort of glory hunter in 2012 when we had our first. Oh, I think she's gone. Hopefully she might not come back. We'll see. 2012. Oh, glory! One of the best summers of my whole life. I'm a huge armchair sports fan. And I love the Olympics. So London 2012 was just the best. And also Bradley Wiggins won the Tour de France. He won the Olympic road race, and my very lovely, patient partner kind of explained a lot of things of how the Tour de France worked, as did the commentators. And actually, I got much more into it than him. I think I started listening to my first cycling podcast in about 2017, 18. By this year, I had, I think, 4 daily podcasts on rotation that I was listening to, and as well as a big shout out if you are also I probably don't need to tell you if you are a road racing fan, but Ned Boulting, who's one of the he has been one of the commentators on ITV, the UK broadcaster that covered the tour. But this is the last year. It's really awful. I think I talked about this a little while back when this was announced, but the free to air coverage is going in the UK. It's going behind a paywall. So that is very depressing. But Ned Boulting has a brilliant Substack. I don't know how this guy, his work ethic is kind of unbelievable. He was commentating on the tour every day. He was doing a daily podcast and YouTube videos with his co-commentator, also writing this Substack. Really great chat on there. So I was on there chatting about, and I meant to show the little tiny, I'll post another picture of it. My son made this little teeny tiny model of tiny Tim Wellens, who's the Belgian road racing champion. It's literally about this big, teeny tiny clay model, which he just made one day. So it's been all Tour de France all the time here until kind of the last week, really. So I haven't got much else in the way of podcasts really to talk about, other than the one thing I did remember that I listened to is a great feed on BBC Sounds called the Whodunits feed, which is a lot of old archive murder mysteries and things from back in the day from Radio 4 Extra, which is their archive channel. Lots of Agatha Christie and Lord Peter Wimsey, and there's a show that I really like called The Charles Paris Mysteries with Bill Nighy. They seem to crop up all the time. Bill Nighy basically plays a sort of not terribly successful jobbing actor who basically seems like every show he does, somebody ends up being murdered and he's trying to investigate it. It's sort of, I'm going to talk about this in a bit, but why do we find these kind of murder mysteries sort of weirdly comforting? But I do find that show very nice. So I listened to that this week. That's about it for listening, really. Also the Test match, there's been some cricket happening as well. So it's lots of sport. So that's my listening. So books, I've got my pile here. There's my pile of this month. So I'm going to try and go through these sort of more or less in order. So the first one that I got, I haven't read this as such, but I bought this Best Old Movies for Families, which Austin Kleon, who has a great Substack, had mentioned this ages ago, and I'd kind of got it in my mind I should buy it. I finally did buy it. It's really great. It's all old, I guess probably pre-60s movies. If I just noticed on the bottom, it's from the Beverly Hills Public Library. How brilliant is that? But he divides up old movies that you could watch. It's got like starter kits, first old movies to watch with your toddler, tweener, or teenager. So yeah, I thought this would be some great like summer holiday fare in here. And we did a couple of Sundays ago, I think it was. We had a big Buster Keaton fest. My 11-year-old in particular, big Buster Keaton fan on our hands. So that's really nice. So that's sort of started dipping into that, and that will be a companion for the summer holidays. As will I also started reading this, and we'll see how it's been going with my bless her, my little girl getting upset. But this was another book I bought ages ago, Simplicity Parenting. So one for you with your 2-year-old, perhaps. So I bought this ages ago. I'm always buying too many books and then I don't get around to reading them. But I thought I will read this for the holidays. It's very much all about kind of removing stuff from kids. Too much stimulation, too much content, too many activities, too much of the adult world coming in at them. So yeah, I'm going to try and keep that in mind through the holidays. There was particularly this bit about like exposing children to too much of the news, and it sort of hit home for me quite a bit because we really had this when my daughter was born, basically just at the same time as the pandemic started, and my son was 6 at the time, and I just had like the rolling news on all the time, and I just didn't think about what that was doing to him until we had some big meltdowns. That was kind of the beginnings of our journey into his autism diagnosis. But it was incredibly anxiety inducing, obviously, for a 6-year-old to just be hearing all this stuff about hundreds of people dying every day from this disease that there was no cure for. And, my other half and I, we're quite like political people. We met doing campaigning. We talk about the world and politics and, just trying to be mindful that it's not always the best thing to talk about that stuff in front of your kids. So, yes, I'm going to keep reading that. It's a nice one. And then I've also started, I thought maybe this is in the tied in with the simplicity thing. I have so many books, and you can see there's just like a little bit of them here. I've got every room in the house, there's books everywhere. But nonetheless, I still keep buying more books. And I thought like, I've got to, eat what's in the cupboard, try and read some more of the things that I've actually already got in the house. So I've got in the kitchen, we've got several shelves full of novels that I've bought over the years. Unread ones. I put a bunch of unread ones together. And so I thought I'm going to go there, and I pulled off this one, which is called The Fear Index. It's by Robert Harris, who wrote Fatherland, the kind of counterfactual history where Hitler won the Second World War. I think he also wrote Enigma, the Bletchley Park story that was turned into a movie. I've only just started this. It's a real sort of page turner thriller. It's set in kind of high finance, like a hedge fund trader. So this is a bit of kind of, I don't know if I can call it light reading because it's probably is still kind of political, and possibly on the back it says gripping, intoxicating, provocative, chilling. So it's perhaps not a relaxing read, but anyway, it's just started that one, so that might be another holiday read. And then this is kind of a random one with an unintentional parenting theme. So this is a book called Happy Baby, Happy Family, and it is by the lovely, was co-written by Amy Beeson, who is a wonderful Substacker who I met in London a few weeks ago at the dance stack meetup, where I met loads of really lovely Substackers. And we went back to, Amy had organised this whole thing, and we went back to her house to have a wee, I think. And she showed me around her back garden shed office. And I was just enraptured. I love a shed office. I would love to have one. It's not really possible where I live because we live up on this like really steep hill, and our garden is on a massive slope, and it's really windy and exposed. And also like we have an indoor room that is our office. But I do love a shed office. And so she was showing me around, and she's written, I think, had 3 books published, which with her mum, Sarah Beeson, who's the main written name on here, and her mum, Amy's mum Sarah, was a midwife and health visitor, and she wrote a memoir about her time as a nurse in the East End in the 70s, and Amy very sweetly gave me a copy of that, so that is going to be one of my holiday reads. But then she also gave me this baby book, and it's in a way like I picked it up because my sister-in-law has got a baby. She's coming up to a year old, and I thought maybe she might like it. But then I just got really sucked into reading. I got all kind of nostalgic about the baby days, which I will not be going back to myself. And anyway, so if you know anyone who's got a baby or having a baby, I definitely recommend this. It's really sort of grounded, very, very warm, kind of practical, but very a lot of stuff about kind of emotional, really keying on the bonding, the relationship between the parent and the baby, which I really, really liked. It was not at all like rigid rules and structures and things. So recommend for that. So it's kind of a bit of a mixed bunch. And then I really only read properly one novel this month, which is this, which is My Policeman. Now, this was a book I bought a couple of years ago, was also on that shelf in the kitchen of unread novels. Oh, Tom's come. Hello. It's so exciting to see people appearing on my live. So yeah, My Policeman is inspired by the life of E.M. Forster. So I think I've talked before about the last few years I've been doing these like annual reading projects. I started off with the War and Peace that you can read across a year, like one chapter a day. Then next year I read Les Mis, which is I think it's got 360 chapters or so more or less a chapter a day. Then I couldn't find any more books that worked quite so neatly, so I went back and I reread all 6 novels by E.M. Forster and the short stories, because Forster was a novelist that I really loved when I was a teenager, and had never really gone back to outside of like the Merchant of Ivory films. And then when I was doing that kind of reading project, which was a couple of years ago, I was like researching, seeing other things there were about Forster, and came across this novel, which also you may recognise possibly. This is Brighton Pier, set in Brighton. It's inspired by Forster's life. So Forster was famously, but he was gay. But he wrote Maurice was his novel that he wrote, his sort of homosexual novel that was not published until after he died. And in his real life, he had this kind of really intriguing relationship with I don't know, gay or bisexual policeman. And he ended up, who himself was married, this policeman. And he ended up forming this kind of quite intriguing relationship with the policeman's wife, and she cared for him as an older man. And that's basically that sort of basic structure of plot is lifted into this novel. You may also have heard of this novel because they've made it into a big film with Harry Styles. Anyway, I don't get the chance to do this very much anymore, but that feeling, when you start reading a novel, you get a few chapters in and then you're just all in and you just don't want to put it down and you want to just completely be immersed. And I had that with this book, and I was able to just, I don't know, it was a somewhat quieter weekend where we didn't have too much going on, and I just read it across the weekend, and it's very sad. It was very, it's set in a time when it was illegal to be gay. It makes, especially in this city, we're so, we're very, very LGBTQ plus positive city in Brighton. And, I've got lots and lots of friends, same-sex marriages, lots of my kids' friends have 2 dads or 2 mums. Like, it's going back and reading this, and it's not, this is not within my lifetime, it's set in the 50s, but within still 100% living memory. And it, I guess you realise how at a time when a lot of things can seem quite depressing, like that is one area where things have 100% have got better. So yeah, that's a big recommend. My Policeman. I've not seen the film. I don't know if anyone has seen the film. The reviews I saw were quite positive about Harry Styles' acting, so maybe it's worth giving it a go. I know for sure that it was a lot of the filming was done around Brighton, because there's a house in Brighton called the Regency House, and there's lots of Regency houses, but it's a particular house. It's actually in Hove, I think, where they've renovated it back to as it was in the Regency times. And I get emails from them when they do events and things. And they filmed some of this movie at that house. And I seem to remember it was in the local news a little bit because Harry Styles was in Brighton. So I always like anything where I can see my town on the screen. So I probably will give that a watch at some stage. But I definitely really recommend the novel. It was really, it's sad to read, but like really lovely. And then the last thing I read, which has sort of ended up taking me down this little mid-2000s path in a way, is also on my it's my current like year-long reading project. I'm reading the Noughts and Crosses series. So this is the third book in the series, which I finished a few weeks ago. So if you don't know Noughts and Crosses, it's a YA series by Mallory Blackman, and it's a kind of like, I guess, like a thought experiment, like alternate reality where racism, it still exists. It's as rife as in the real world, but it's flipped basically. So you have the Noughts who are white, who have within sort of a generation or two, like slavery has not long been abolished, and the Crosses, the blacks, are like the ruling. They're in all of the parliament and just as it is in our sadly reversed in the real world. Anyway, the books were written in that kind of early, well, over a period of time. This one was written in 2005, and it was only when it's purely by chance that I was reading it at this time, because I'm reading these books through this year. But there's a note at the beginning of this book, and I won't read all of it, but she says, this book was written in 2004 and first published in June 2005. The launch party for the book was scheduled for the 7th of July 2005. Where was I on 7/7? In the West End of London, having my hair done, when 4 bombs exploded across the city. With the report of the first explosion, everyone in the hairdressing salon thought there must have been a gas leak or something. But each new customer brought with them more reports of explosions. That's when we knew that these explosions had to be the results of bombs. And she talks about getting home across central London. But the reason that this is relevant is that this book is about a suicide bomber. And she says, the events of that day seemed to highlight exactly the theme of Checkmate. I was criticised by some for writing this book in the first place. They didn't feel that a girl being trained to be a suicide bomber was a suitable topic for a novel for young adults. I disagreed then, and I disagreed now. So here is Checkmate. So yeah, the over sort of the plot of the Noughts and Crosses novels, it's a family saga really. So in the first book, there's 2 teenagers, one Nought, one Cross, who get together. They have a child. That child, by the time of this book, is a teenager, and she's being basically, I think they don't really use this terminology in this book, but she's being groomed basically by her uncle, who's in this terrorist cell, basically the Liberation Militia. And yeah, she's being trained as a suicide bomber. So I was reading that book, and then obviously I couldn't help but be aware of this 20th anniversary coming of 7/7. And there's been a lot of media. There's been documentaries and things covering this, but and I wasn't sure that I wanted to watch them, because although I think do think there's a lot of value in these kind of those anniversary pegged like historical political documentaries, especially for things that if you didn't personally live through them. So I have found that I've learned a lot and really appreciated and the death of Yugoslavia is one that comes to mind, and anything made by that production company, where you've got the people who were involved telling you what happened, and with the benefit of time and some distance reflecting on what was going on and why. I do think there's a real value in those programs, but also I have found that when it's an event that I personally like experienced firsthand or remember, that it can be a bit sort of re-traumatizing. I did watch some of the 9/11 anniversary stuff in 2021, and yeah, I felt a bit like that. So I wasn't really sure that I was going to watch the 7/7 stuff, but then I read this book. I thought, I will, because it feels very close to me. So I was living. I wasn't directly. I should say at the outset, I was not directly affected. Oh, she's coming back. You going to sit quietly, darling? You come and sit on the sofa. It's not great what I'm going to be talking about now, really, for you. See, she's just come in at the thank you so much for coming. My 5-year-old's just come back in just as I'm about to start talking about terrorism, so I don't know how that's going to go. Should we just want to quickly say hello, and then you're going to go back outside again? Good girl. Oh dear. Sorry. So 7/7. So I was working in TV. I was living by the Oval Tube. I actually wasn't in London when the bombs themselves happened. It's the peak of my TV career. I was I had just flown to Dallas to make this very high quality series for Discovery called The World's Strangest UFO Stories. And so I remember I'm pretty sure that I'm right in saying that the day before 7/7 was the day that they announced that London had got the Olympic bid for 2012. We were on the plane when that was announced. It was I guess like British Airways or Virgin. It was a British plane, and the captain announced it and everybody cheered. So it was all like really positive. And we got to America, and then obviously we were in bed because I think it's 6 or 7 hours. We were in Dallas. We woke up the next morning to the news of what had happened in London, and it was, obviously the first thing I wanted to do was check that all my friends, my family who were in London were safe. Than they were, I'm happy to say. Although I did find out, I can't actually remember now whether I knew this at the time or whether this is something that I found out later, but somebody on my street in London was killed on the bus at Tavistock Square. And, this really hits home. I used to cycle to work when I was in London, but I did also get the tube a lot, for nights out and things. I was on the tube all the time. It was really like, this could have been me. And then I was back, I think a couple of weeks later. And so I was back in London for the second wave of bombs on the 21st of July. And the next day, the 22nd of July, this was not in this documentary series. And I had to go back and look and find some news reports to check that I hadn't imagined this. But the next day, which was the day that John Charles Menezes was shot, which they do cover at length in this documentary, which I'll talk about in a moment. But that same day, and it was at the time, both of these events were reported in the same news reports. And then the earlier one, I guess nothing really happened with it. And it's not now remembered, but they arrested somebody in the block of flats at the end of my road. I was cycling back from work. I got to the corner of my street. There was loads of people. There was police vans. I saw my neighbour. I hopped off my bike and obviously I said, well, what's going on? And they had arrested somebody in this block of flats. They had found what they thought was bomb-making materials in there. There was no more reports about that. And I don't remember at the time that ever hearing it. So all I can assume was that this guy was actually not related, as of course, nor was John Charles Menezes involved whatsoever. But that happened that day. And then obviously, I suppose it must have been that evening or the next morning that the news broke about Menezes. And that was at Stockwell Tube, which was the next tube station along from where I lived. I used to cycle down to Brixton all the time from the Oval and go past the tube, and there was like a bit, this big shrine outside. And just watching this documentary really took me back to this time. It was at that time in the mid 2000s, I was doing a lot of campaigning. I was doing sort of Greenpeace campaigning, but I was also doing. I went back and looked in my diary for this time just to try and get the event straight, because I'd been over in America doing this kind of aliens thing, but also it was around the time this feels kind of quaint now compared to what's going on, like the clampdown on protests now. But in 2005, they just brought in they were bringing in this new law for Parliament Square, that you could no longer just freely protest in Parliament Square. You'd have to get permission from the police and tell them how many people were going to be there and what it was about. And I remember being really appalled by this, that we were being stopped from protesting outside the seat of our own government. And so I was involved with, there was a big tea party in Parliament Square, and I went and did some non-violent direct action training, I remember, at a little community centre, and I was photographed by policemen, very, very obviously with their big, big cameras, as I went into this community centre. And, this was the time I was in my late 20s, and I didn't have a great feeling about the police then, from going on protests and things. And obviously a lot of things have come out now, the spy cops. I think I was right to be distrustful of the police then. And, watching this documentary, I really appreciated that they gave everybody a chance to speak. And you heard from the surveillance officers, they had the guy who actually pulled the trigger. He was, his identity was obscured. One thing, what they didn't have, Blair was in this show, the Liza Manning and Buller, the head of MI5 was in the show. The senior Cressida Dick and Sir Ian Blair did not appear. The top brass of the Met Police, that no one has ever faced any consequences for what happened to Menezes. And they they go into that in this program. They talk about, I remember this, that the kind of common feeling that, oh, he jumped the ticket barriers, oh, he was wearing a big bulky coat, he resisted arrest. All of those things are completely not true, and they took care to stress that in this show. So I don't know, I did appreciate all of that. As a sort of overall comment, I'd be really interested if anyone else has seen this show. There's certain aspects to these kinds of documentaries. I do understand that we're in a big sea of content, and you're fighting for people's eyeballs. And I watch a lot of fictional crime stuff. Talking again about the Charles Paris, I don't really know why I find them so appealing in a way. It's a known phenomenon. I remember when I was working in TV a lot, like female skewing crime is very female skewing. There's probably some interesting psychology perhaps in why that is, but I really enjoy watching like detective, crime mystery, murder mystery shows. And so I'm very familiar with, there's a lot of tropes in the, the visuals, in the sound design, the music, and then in the story structure, obviously, how these things are put together. And so many of these tropes were employed in this 7/7 Netflix documentary series. And especially like some of the sort of cliffhangers and some of the use of sort of sound design, I found it a little bit icky at times, I have to say. Like, and perhaps I guess the difference is, it feels very personal to me, 7/7, because of all of these direct personal memories. So I don't know. I think I was thinking, like, well, would I say to other people to watch? I think I definitely would, especially if you don't remember, or you weren't in London. People were too young to really remember it, or just weren't there personally. I would recommend it, but I think you need to sort of pick your. It is a very tough watch. There's interviews with survivors from the actual bombs, the 7/7 bombs. It's hard to watch, but I think it's important. And I'm also interesting and kind of positive. Oh, I've just seen Sarah has joined. Hi, Sarah. It's so lovely when people come onto my little life. It's very interesting to me that it's Netflix who are doing some of these like political documentaries. There's also the Netflix Grenfell documentary, which I haven't watched, but I will. I want to. I think I need to give myself a little moment after the 7/7 one before I watch the Grenfell one. But I appreciate that the big streamer is taking these subjects on. So yeah, that is 7/7, and that's documentary wise. That's really all I. Apart from, I did watch a load of early on when I was prepping for the film club. I watched a load of short films, some docs, atomic things for programming, and there's way more than I've been able to kind of include onto my program. So I might do at some point a bonus just playlist, I suppose, of other like atomic short films. I did watch some short documentaries on atomic issues a few weeks ago, but mainly it was just the 7/7 thing. And then drama wise, so I watched the end of The Handmaid's Tale. I don't know quite what I think about that. That Handmaid's Tale, the novel, it was really like such an important novel for me when I was a teenager, and I loved, and I still really love, Margaret Atwood. I actually did my final dissertation. I did an English literature degree, and my final dissertation was on Margaret Atwood, on her use of place in her writing. I love The Handmaid's Tale, so of course I wanted to watch the dramatization. I've stuck with it all the way through to the bitter end. I think 6 series was it in the end. Honestly, after the first series, when it kind of went beyond the bounds of the book, I was always a little bit mixed feelings, really. Like, Elizabeth Moss is incredible, like she's so compelling on screen, and all the cast really amazing acting in it, but sometimes the storylines did sort of just seem that they were pushing the boundaries. I mean, she, I don't know if anyone has seen it, but like how many times one person can come back from like such great peril and still survive. She's the main character syndrome, like literally. Towards the end, I don't know, I was glad to have seen it through to the end. I personally read lots of reviews afterwards, and some people really did love this. It kind of went full circle back to the book. I found that a little bit hack, really. I didn't love that. But I was glad to have watched it, and I will be watching the Testaments adaptation when that comes out. So yeah, that's been a big sort of feature of my drama watching over the last sort of few years. And then the other sort of drama I've been watching is this thing. I'd be interested if anyone else has been watching this on Apple TV. It's a show called Smoke. It's also kind of a bit preposterous, really. I would say it was like too preposterous to believe, except that it is based on an actual real case, and there's a podcast series which I have not listened to because I want to experience the drama. But it's about arson investigators. Taron Egerton is the main star in it. It's kind of, I don't know, I'm going to stick with it, I think, because I'm in for it now. It's maybe sunk cost fallacy here, but we'll see. Kind of the first couple of episodes, it was okay, and then there was a big, like, really intriguing twist at the end of the second episode. So I was like, okay, I'm in. Then it was okay, but then it went really weird and like disturbing, and I can't remember the fourth or fifth episode, and I was really like, I don't know if I want to watch this. I did watch another episode, and it kind of had turned it back around again. So I'm gonna stick with it, but I'd be interested to know what other people think about that. And then what else we've been watching? The big thing that I've been watching with my kids is this BBC sitcom called Here We Go, which is just brilliant. It's very old school, like kind of slapstick suburban family sitcom. Absolutely incredible cast: Alison Steadman, Catherine Parkinson from the IT crowd, the IT crowd, and loads of other things. Jim Howick, who's from Horrible Histories and Ghosts. And it's just sort of, and Tom Basden, right? So I'm going to talk about Tom Basden. So he writes it and also stars in it as this sort of, he's the brother of Catherine Parkinson, who's the mum of the family, the sort of like hapless brother. We watched 7 episodes back to back yesterday. It's just really, really good fun. So if you're looking for something kind of, the third series has just dropped on iPlayer. So yeah, hard recommend for Here We Go. And yeah, Tom Basden. So just wanted to say a bit about him. So also another like mid 2000s connection for me. Around that time in the mid 2000s, when I was doing all this campaigning, I was doing a lot of stuff with Greenpeace, and I ended up these strange things that we do. Greenpeace have a field every year at Glastonbury, and I volunteered for them, and I ran. I don't actually know if they still do this, but every year they had a big speed dating event, and then they would have a mass wedding or a mass hand fasting, they'd call it. Like, it wasn't legal, but like a pagan hand fasting wedding ceremony for anybody who wanted to come to get married at Glastonbury in the Greenpeace field. And I ran that for 3 years in the mid 2000s, and I had like a team of sort of entertainers from an agency called the Ministry of Fun, and a lot of the people in that agency were comedians, and some of those have gone on to become quite well known. Tim Key and Tom Basden were not in the Ministry of Fun, I should say, but because I got friendly with quite a lot of these guys and went to see a lot of comedy shows, Room Above a Pub, quite sort of small scale things around that time, and I did see Tim Key and Tom Basden a lot at that time, doing a lot of like musical comedy was what I remember, and they were very funny, and it's been really like lovely, along with other people from that time, seeing them go on and find a lot of success. Anyway, Tom Basden and Tim Key have got this, well, it's not that new, I think it came out in May, but they've got a film out called The Ballad of Wallace Island, and my son and I really wanted to go and see it, and I've been looking around to try and it actually was out a few weeks ago, but I did just find it looks as though we may be able to go and see it in Brighton this weekend on Sunday, so we will do that. I'll report back. But that film, The Ballad of Wallace Island, is based on an original short from 2007, which we watched, and Tim Key basically plays this sort of like lottery winning weirdo on an island, who gets Tom Basden, who's a BAFTA, that's a Freudian slip, Brit Award, Mobo Award winning folk singer, gets him to come to the island and performs for him. Yeah, it was really cool, like watching that. Well, it's very funny. They're very funny guys, but also seeing them looking like really young. That's shockingly, that's not so far off 20 years ago now either, is it? 2007. So you realise how much you've aged as well in that time. But anyway, so yeah, Ballad of Wallace Island, I don't know if anyone's seen that, but by all accounts it's very, very good fun. So we're going to hopefully see that this weekend. And I think that is more or less me up to date. So, crikey, I have been waffling on for ages. So yeah, that's what I've been reading and watching. There'll be the little kind of mini series for the Hiroshima and Nagasaki anniversary coming up next week. The 6th of August is the anniversary of Hiroshima. The film thread is here. We're meeting on Sunday, so just another plug if you want to join us. You can upgrade, watch the film over the weekend. My primer post, which you don't need to read, but it's just like cool, interesting things that I found out about the film, and areas that we might want to talk about on the discussion. So that's most of that is behind the paywall for members, of which we have got a little merry band now. So that's very exciting. So maybe see you there, and I'm sure I'll be like on Substack. Maybe I will even have more time to kind of just read stuff. We'll see. But I'm going to try to not really be writing in August because I'll be busy with the kiddies and the builders and the Isle of Wight and lots of good fun things. So I'm going to sign off now. And I'm thrilled that some people have come. So thank you to everybody who's joined live today. And if you're watching on the replay, hello. And yes, I will see you again soon. Now, the next thing I've got to do is figure out how to here we go, end. Right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.